Good afternoon. Welcome back. We're just about to start shortly. On va commencer tout de suite. For the next session, it's the session on pitching around the funds and financing opportunities for renewable energy companies. And I'm pleased to therefore invite Mr. Alexis, who's the board member for RE, who will lead this particular session. So, Mr. Alexis.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone. We're happy to introduce this session. We'll just start in French and then switch to English. Donc, on va démarrer maintenant la session de pitching pour les solutions de financement. La session va se dérouler un peu différemment par rapport aux autres que vous avez pu voir. Vous allez voir défiler sur scène 9 personnes qui vont vous présenter leur solution de financement, qui vont à chaque fois avoir un temps assez court, c'est vraiment sous le format du pitch, donc ça va être court, rapide et dynamique, vous présenter leur solution. Il n'y a pas de questions, donc c'est-à-dire qu'on enchaîne les présentations et on gardera le temps à la fin pour les éventuelles questions des uns des autres. Et bien sûr, les intervenants seront disponibles dans la foulée pour discuter avec vous. So it's a session a little bit different from the other one. It's really a pitching session, so you will see 9 persons coming on the stage to present you their financing solution. They will all have 5 minutes to present it. There will be no question between each of the presentation, but we will keep some time at the end of the session to allow the audience to ask any of your questions. And of course, all the panelists will be available right after and really happy to discuss with you in more details their solution. So without any further delay, we will start. And we will start with James Fabola. I hope he's already here. Okay, great. James Fabola from Persistent Energy, so principal at Persistent Energy. So, yes, please. From here, or as you prefer.
How do I toggle the presentation?
So, it's this one.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is James, and I work with Persistent Energy. I'm a principal at Persistent Energy. We like to call ourselves Africa's climate venture builder, and we have a number of mandates where we venture build. We have the CEA Africa mandate, we have a Get Invest mandate, and we also assist one of our partners with the EAIF fund. For the purpose of this meeting, I'll be talking about the CEA Africa mandate. What is CEA Africa? It's a foundation funded by KfW. Essentially, this is born out of a need to continue to drive funding towards the off-grid energy, or for those who call it the renewable energy space. We have a number of windows, which I will touch on. There's the crowd lending window, there's the RBF window, which is the subsidy window, and there's the soft component window. CEA Africa is managed by a consortium of 3 parties. One is Triple Jump. Triple Jump plays the role of foundation manager. I'm sure some of us are familiar with Triple Jump. I work with Persistent Energy. We manage the crowd lending window, where we look to co-invest alongside crowd lenders, and then GreenMax, a financing firm that manages the RBF window. I'll start with the crowd lending window, which is what Persistent Energy co-leads. The rationale behind this window is, for those of you who are not familiar with the crowd lending window, I would argue they've played a pivotal role over the last 5 years of driving funding into this space. So essentially, they raise funding from the crowd and they lend to borrowers. I think over the last 5 years, they've probably deployed over 100 million euros. But unfortunately, as you know, COVID happened, and that exacerbated a lot of the peculiar challenges with this space. So what we saw over the last 18 to 24 months was funding withdraw from the space. And despite where you stand on some of the various contentious issues in our sector, I think one thing we can all agree on is the sector needs more funding, not less. So our thinking is, if we're able to co-invest alongside the crowd lenders, deploy various initiatives and instruments that would incentivize deployment, then they would continue to drive funding into the space. So we typically target sectors such as solar home systems, off-grid C&I, productive use of energy. And we also do mini-grids. The focus countries are shown there: Benin, Ethiopia, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Mozambique, Namibia, Senegal, Uganda, Zambia. If you ask me why these focus countries, I think it's more strategic relationships and alliance with KfW. And on the green mini-grid side, we look at opportunities in Sierra Leone, Benin, Madagascar, Kenya, and DRC, where we seek to align with the RBF window. We're quite flexible with the number of instruments we can deploy. Okay, sorry. Quite flexible with the number of instruments we can deploy, as you can see, senior debt, sub-debt, which is most critical, because before we put together this foundation, we had extensive engagements with the crowd lenders and potential borrowers across the various sectors. And one thing that was clear is there was a missing piece in terms of sub-debt that would incentivize the crowd lenders to provide senior debt, and also on the back of that also attract equity investing into the space. We can do equity, quasi-equity, and also guarantees. We have quite a robust TA framework where we look to support capacity building across various initiatives, either leading up to our investment or subsequently to strengthen, operationalize various key issues that we think are critical. We have quite a simple process. I know you hear that quite a bit, but trust me, ours is truly simple. It's a two-step process where we look to onboard the crowd lenders first and then take advantage of their nimble processes to deploy funding. The RBF window, essentially, it's subsidies targeting green mini-grids, where we look to fund up to 50% of the CAPEX cost per connection. We take advantage of the Odyssey IT platform for onboarding. I think we just finished a pre-qualification phase in countries such as DRC and Kenya, and then subsequently we'll be looking to finalize the site inspection phase and hopefully start to pay out the grants. I talked a bit about technical assistance. Again, we think this is quite strategic to what we do. As part of onboarding and engaging the crowd lenders and borrowers, we seek to identify key issues around capacity building, A&S, strengthening, HR, etc. And based on that, we will deploy TA funding to target those. In summary, like I said, it's a 3-man consortium. There's Triple Jump, Green Max Persistent. Depending on where you think you fall in, if you're looking at debt facilities for construction RBF bridges, we're keen to have a conversation with you. If you're looking at RBF funding, we'll be keen to introduce you to our parties at Green Max. And then for Triple Jump, they're keen to take on any conversations, answer any questions or engagements you might have. Thank you.
It was incredible. Without any delay, we'll ask to Beatrice Moutani, Business Development Manager at Infraco Africa, to come to the stage and take after the solution. So
Hey, good afternoon. Well, normally we are not used to pitching. We are used to being pitched to, so we are really struggling here, but we'll try. Beatrice Muthoni is my name, Business Development Manager for Infraco Africa. So Infraco Africa is part of a bigger group called the Private Infrastructure Development Group. Maybe some of you have heard about it. But our mandate is basically investing in infrastructure, which means we are bigger than DRE. We have other infrastructure projects that we invest in. So under the PH group, we have a consortium of companies. So we offer a blended kind of finance. So we have companies under the PH group that cater for different stages of development within the project. So in more details, on the left is just the map that shows the needs in sub-Saharan Africa, but we go beyond sub-Saharan Africa actually for some of our companies. So Infraco Africa specifically offers patient equity in sub-Saharan Africa, but we have Infraco Asia that does the same for the Southeast Asia. Then we have Emerging Africa Infrastructure Fund that offers debt, mezzanine, senior, junior debt, whatever kind of debt the projects need. And then we have Garantco that offers credit enhancement facilities and also mobilizes local capital markets. So specifically for DRE, Garantco is a good player because most of the time we see one of the challenges in DRE is foreign exchange risk. So it comes in handy in mobilizing local capital. And then we have the last one, the PGTA, which gives technical assistance facility plus VGF facility. So it could give small grants or VGF grants to the tune of 10 million. So we generally, PG is a blended finance platform. Well, I said one-stop shop for the infrastructure sector, but somebody said blended finance is a better name. So Infraco Africa specifically, what do? We provide risk capital and expertise in development of infrastructure projects, but I'll come down to the DRE space because that is the whole purpose of this particular session. So we have offered 30 million to date in DRE projects. So we have C&I, mini grids, and solar home systems. We invest in the those three lines. We have a team of experienced experts within Infraco Africa developing and financing and managing the DRE sector. 60% of our projects are in fragile countries. So we go where most of the other investors are not willing to go because part of our mandate is actually to catalyze financing into those countries. So you'll find us in Chad, you'll find us in South Sudan, you'll find us in Somalia, Somaliland maybe. Maybe we don't go to the very, very risky ones, but we try as much as possible to do fragile and conflict-affected states. We champion inclusion, green growth, and bringing back better to those countries and to the projects. One of our criteria for investing in projects is actually additionality. So if there's a lot of crowding of investors in specific projects or countries, then we think we're not additional in those places. So what do we look at when we're looking at projects? Our track record of the investors that we're looking at, regulatory environment in those countries. Specifically for DRE, regulation is quite critical because it can make or break your project. Subsidy programs, specifically for mini grids, we follow subsidies because then a lot of times we have seen that these projects do not work whenever there's no subsidies. And as I said earlier, development impacts and additionality is very key. We look at sustainable projects, so we try as much as possible to make our investee companies sustainable and replicable. So if we can do it in Kenya, then we can replicate such models in other countries. Our ticket sizes range between 1 million to 10 million, and we come in at straight equity. So this is specific for Infraco Africa. We come in at straight equity. We are very flexible in terms of structure. So we could come in at the platform level, holdco corporate level, SPV level, country level, project finance level. And we have different equity instruments. We could come in with convertible notes, which are a little bit faster to close. We could come in as straight equity, or we could come in as shareholder loans, which are less risky to us. We additionally, apart from bringing in financing, we also come in with a lot of governance, strengthening, and health and safety, strengthening to the companies that we invest in. So this is just a sample of some of the projects that we've invested in. We've invested in PowerGen, mini grids in Sierra Leone. We've invested in RVESO, mini grids in Kenya and beyond, East Africa generally. And we have invested in Equatorial Power. There are projects in DRC and Rwanda. So you can see DRC and Sierra Leone are fragile countries, and we actually invested in that. And then in the solar home system space, we have invested in BBox at the corporate level. For C&I, the first deal for C&I is still in the making, so we could not put it here for confidentiality purposes. And that's us. If you want to reach Infraco Africa, you can contact me, but if you want to reach the rest of the companies, Garantco, Imagine Africa, you can still write me a message and I could introduce you to the rest of the companies. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for this presentation. Who will be the first one to break the 5-minute limit? We'll see. Just a quick reminder that some of the presentation may be in French, but as usual, you have the translators. So let's move to the next one and welcome Christophe Bott or both, I don't know, to the stage for Get Invest.
I move the presentation. How? Let's forward. Okay. Can I use this one? Oh, okay. This one. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christoph. I work as a senior advisor for the Get Invest program. And over the course of the 1.5 last days, I had the privilege to meet and discuss the energy access topic with a lot of you in person and in detail. These conversations led me to formulate 3 major challenges I think we're all facing. One is the diversity of markets and players, so it requires skills to identify the right players. Number 2 is the complexity of project structures, so you need skills to structure the projects in the right way and move them to investors. Number 3 is the mismatch between capital needs and solution. Here it's required to connect the different parties, the project developers, the companies, and to a lack of bankable projects in a pipeline and a problem to connect companies and finance providers. From this perspective, we all should look for a solution at scale, providing access to finance and a connection between renewable energy companies. Therefore, I would like to introduce you to the Get Invest program, more precisely who we are, what we do, and how you can benefit from our services. The Caribbean and the Pacific region. The Europe assistance to renewable companies in order to build this pipeline I just talked about. See a range of services provided by us, but in today's session I would only like to focus on the box on the right with a few additions, maybe later on. Focus is on clean energy solutions and business models. The major part of the scope must be clean energy system investment, for example, renewable energy or energy efficiency. Also, innovative topics and teams are very interesting for us. Please contact us if you have. For example, electricity generation, distribution in case of mini-grids and standalone systems, mechanical energy, industrial process, heat or cooling, clean cooking and appliance products for the off-grid sector, as well as green hydrogen, power to X, pure storage and e-mobility projects. Focus on energy digital and smart data system developers who can benefit from our support. Systems are also interesting for us. Please contact us if you're working on such services in more detail. The finance catalyst you see on the left-hand side, that's our workhorse. 30 senior advisors take you on the journey of transaction advisory to finance access. As of now, more than 1,200 applications in 6 years have been received, and currently more than 130 have been accepted by finance for due diligence and structuring of deals. Choose if you request our services for short term on a very specific topic, or on a long-term basis to assist you on the whole way to financing. Readiness support you see on the right identified the need to support specifically companies that are locally owned and managed, mostly here in Sub-Saharan Africa. We can support you from seed financing to Series A rounds, from mezzanine to senior loans. We can support you A useful tool we have to offer is the funding database. You can discover and investigate our publicly available list on the website. Instruments where financiers of different kinds present their appetite. I'd like to introduce you to our team members present here at EAIF 2023. From the Get Invest team, we have Mrs. Ilham Talab, our project manager, Mrs. Marie Dieng, our project advisor, and Mr. Cesar Rodriguez, our set up a Get Invest booth outside in the patio area. You've seen it maybe. Our finance catalyst, which I introduced just a minute ago, we have Mrs. Daphne Pitt, the deputy Marcus Rota, and Ms. Maurice Pigat, two of our senior advisors. We have set up a lot of matchmaking opportunities every day of the event. There's still opportunities to book it today and tomorrow. In my presentation, I would like you to meet with us. Let's talk about your renewable energy project and how Get Invest can support you to access finance. You can slide and learn more about our services, the application process, the list of funding providers, our advisors in more detail, and you can check out unique and fascinating stories of successful access to finance on our website. Thank you very much.
Once again, perfect timing. And now next one is Pierre Kwaku, Program Manager and Senior Technical Advisor for EAIF. So, how's it working?
Pierre Kwaku, Senior Technical Advisor for EAIF. So before starting, let me maybe introduce EAIF to all of you here. EAIF is a fund manager based in Nairobi. We have operation across 26 countries. We have regional offices here in Abidjan. Our headquarters is based in Nairobi, and another office in Tanzania as well. So we have our main purpose is maybe to try to catalyze Africa private sector. We targeting the marginalized communities. What kind of challenge we're trying to address? We targeting mainly poor people. And we, we see maybe by 2023, 175 million people maybe lacking energy across Africa here, and 25% of Africa people will maybe lack water as well. So we see as well a 15% dropped in the Africa GDP. Maybe by 2030. Let me speak about our investment strategy and how we try to tackle the challenge I mentioned here. We mainly, before maybe presenting what we have managed to achieve so far till we start now, we're using many different mechanisms, mainly RBF. Our main mechanism is RBF. We're using as well guarantee, and beside our funding we provide TA to all of the company we support. By the different, let me. When we provide the funding to the different companies, we only ask them maybe a small contribution, and this contribution called matching fund maybe account at around 25% of the fund we provide. And our funding mainly range from 20,000 K to around $1 million. And we have, as I said, we have been working in about 26 countries right now. In some of the countries, we provide interest-free loan and guarantee in one of our countries, in Somalia, in a specific project there. RBF is mainly, targeting specific energy companies. And in terms of technology, we target mini-grid, we target as well solar home system company, clean cooking, and productive use of energy. And we have achieved so far in our different countries 442 million in terms of fund mobilized so far till now. 30 million lives till now, 1.84 billion of net development impact, 416 enterprise supported, mainly SMEs. We targeting in terms of SMEs, the one struggling maybe to mobilize commercial funding. We're not looking at a company maybe able to raise easily funding from the commercial bank and impact fund providers. So this is why actually we work with most of the local companies in the different countries we're working in. And we have achieved so far in terms of fund catalyzed 771 million. So our target, I mentioned, is youth, the women, and fragility. And how we work? We work through 4 main interventions. Besides our financing, we manage maybe to develop knowledge services, maybe to be able to use it in our next and upcoming project. And we have an academy called EAIF Academy, developing advisory services. So beside our funding, we support our different companies providing TA and investment support through investment facilitation. So here, this is how we actually work. We design and surface. We select the company mainly through call for proposal. And when we select the company, we contract them based on what they mentioned in their proposal. And what we target mainly is the impact. Before maybe coming to us, ask yourself if you're able maybe to bring us because we use public fund to finance our project. So we commit our donors with number of impact. Actually, we ask our investee maybe to bring us large and for growth and scale.
Thanks a lot. I've seen a lot of option solutions, but now Izona Shibata, and you go forward like that.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for coming along to this last session. I know it can get a lot with so many people to hear from. It certainly feels different, as Beatrice said, to be the one pitching instead of being pitched to. So I'm from Energize Africa. This afternoon I'm representing Lenderhand, which is the EU platform, and Energize Africa, which is the UK platform. Both of the platforms are online crowd lending platforms, and we were set up really to enable ordinary people in the UK and in the EU to be able to put their money into impactful projects in sub-Saharan Africa. So we have a minimum investment amount, which is just 50 euros. And I know that nobody in this room is looking for 50 euros, but over the years, cumulatively, we've aggregated those micro investments and raised over 140 million for the different companies that we've worked with. So we know from our experience that there's a real appetite and interest from, as I say, ordinary people in the markets that we're operating in to support renewable energy projects in Africa. Financed 45 companies in 35 countries, that's including some projects in Latin America. And we have a community of over 25,000 impact-focused investors across those two markets where we're operating our platforms. But what can we offer for you? Effectively, it's a tranche-based credit facility. So companies who raise on the platform can issue promissory notes. We will market these to our crowd investors. And so once they have subscribed and we reach the campaign target, this can be used as a working capital facility. We also do inventory finance. And it's a very flexible tranche-based facility. So while the company may have access to €1 million as the underlying facility, they can draw this down in tranches of as small as 50,000. So it's really designed to meet your business needs, and you can match your borrowing to what your activities are over the next 6, 12, 18 months. Unlike a lot of other crowdfunding platforms, we will manage and market the campaign, so you don't need to get involved in going out to thousands of crowd investors to persuade them about why your project is impactful. We take your story and we will do all of that kind of hard selling on your behalf. And as I say, we will then aggregate all of those small investments into a single disbursement for you, the company. In terms of our indicative size, at the moment, our minimum ticket size is around £750,000. We're working hard to get a system in place. That means that we can work with some smaller companies. Please do bear with us. We recognize that there's a real gap in the market there, and it's something that we're seeking to address over the next 12 months. Typically, we would offer 6 to 48-month tenor, and that can be adjusted according to the tranche that you draw down. So you may want 24 months for one tranche, but you need only 6 months for the next tranche, and we can work with your needs on that. And it's a 6-monthly linear amortizing repayments. Our pricing, we would typically offer 5 to 8% to our crowd investors, and then there will be an upfront fee for the use of the platform. A couple of examples of who we've worked with, and I would really encourage, I know that some people are here, if you're interested in raising finance, go and speak to some of the companies who've raised with us to understand kind of the process and how it works. We've worked with Alltech, who are a solar home system company in DRC. They've been raising with us now for a couple of years and cumulatively have hit 2.5 million. But they've drawn that down in a series of quite small campaigns. And then the other example is Aptech. I think Laura might be in the room. Who are a Uganda-based EPC, but implementing projects across the continent, if not the world now. And, you know, with them, I think Energize Africa has been a good platform because for each project that they have, they're able to raise finance according to the specific project needs rather than thinking about, you know, the whole balance sheet. And so for them, it gives a lot of flexibility in how they raise their finance. To work with us, like I say, please do talk to other companies who've raised with us to understand the process and the steps that you'll need to go through. Also, there is Energy for Impact's Crowdpower State of the Market report, which they do, I think, every year nowadays, which is a really good insight into how crowd lenders and crowdfunders have kind of helped to support the energy access market. we're not the only ones out there by any means, and there are different platforms who will be suitable for different stages in your company growth, and Crowdpower produced a really nice report on how those different platforms work. Come and talk to me, or you can go straight to our investments team. You have the website and email at the bottom there. Thank you.
Okay, now maybe more well-known fund, I don't know, Electrify. We'll welcome Quentin Antoine, Senior Investment Manager, which will present his solution.
Après-midi, good afternoon, good evening, I don't know yet. Real pleasure to be presenting Electrify this afternoon. My name's Quentin Antoine. I've been at Electrify for nearly 6 years now, so since the early days, have been involved with many of our transactions, and I went through the entire history that we went through for the past 6 years at least. So presenting EDFI Electrify, that stands for the Electrification Financing Initiative. This is a fund, well, a facility of many that is managed by a company called EDFI Management Company based out of Brussels. Currently 40 people, more or less, managing many facilities, and as you can see, we're offering a range of development finance solutions that are structured in a way to bridge a gap on the market, on a failure of a market. So not only Electrify, but you see Agrify, for example, is a facility that is tailored to smallholder farming and family farming on the continent here. And obviously, many, if not all, of our facilities are done in very close partnership with the European Union, an investor and a partner. Strong base. We're created by and owned by the 15 European DFI, so we have a very strong DFI base, strong shareholder base as well, and that gets you also a sense of how we operate and the typology of investment we're currently looking and we're after. But we're actually here to discuss about Electrify. So what is Electrify? Is an access to energy fund funded by the European Union, not exclusively, but mostly. And that is entirely committed toward increasing access to clean energy in emerging markets. So what are we after? We're obviously very focused around access to energy, emerging market, unsurprisingly. We're investing in early stage companies or projects, and I'll come back to the concept of early stage just to make sure that we all understand what it means for us. We obviously are very focused on three things. First, what we want is to create either new connections to renewable source of energy, or we want to improve existing connections. For example, I don't know, decarbonizing a connection, adding solar to phasing out some diesel genset, for example. And we want, at the same time, also increasing the generation capacity on the ground. And so, by all means, we're looking at any sector, any business model that allows us actually to achieve those targets. We've been investing in solar home system, we've been investing in mini-grids, and by the way, it seems that the World Bank sees us as one of the predominant investors in the mini-grid space. Very happy to hear that from the latest report that they've issued recently. We've been investing, and we continue to invest in C&I, and we are currently looking at expanding slightly into the new things. And e-mobility, we're just asking ourselves, what is the role that we can play in the sector, while keeping in mind the mandate we have. So energy efficiency, e-mobility, for example, are the new things we're slightly, trying to think of and see what can be done. Currently, over 300 million under management. There is obviously a little bit of history there. We have our historical fund, 115 million, now entirely committed, that has initially a mandate, quite broad, a global mandate. We were allowed to invest in the entire DAC list, so obviously we would select any good project where energy access was at stake. Since it's entirely committed, we've been engaging quite a bit with LPs, and we've been able to close new facilities, but more on a country basis. So for the time being, we have a strong focus on certain countries. very focused on Ivory Coast, very focused on Benin, very focused on Kenya, Uganda, Burundi, DRC, Mozambique, Eswatini, I think. I'm sure I'm missing some. Please get on our website if you want the full list, but this is very much where our investment strategy and investment focus currently is. Average ticket size, 2.9 million. That also gives you a sense of what we're achieving currently. And we are obviously never going beyond the 50% bar of the investment need. So also, if our ticket size is nearly 3 million, it means that the company would need at least 6 million. It's an average, so it means that we can go much lower, of course, but that gives you also a sense of the project we've been achieving. What makes us unique? Well, the pitching session today is unique, in a sense, so thank you, Beatrice. Now, first, we're impact first. So, for us to start looking at the project, the impact story is going to be very important. We need to make sure that we're creating a lot of good impacts. And so, not only in terms of new connection, improved connections, but also carbon avoidance, in terms of employment, well, all the usual suspects that you would see for an impact investor. We're also kind of unique in a sense that we tend to look or help de-risking certain projects where more, I would say, commercially driven investor would not necessarily go. And in that sense, we either do and come in a bit earlier to de-risk the project, or we tend to take a position in the structure of the financing that allows more commercially driven investor to feel a bit more comfortable and come into the play. So that means that we basically are quite fit for purpose, and we tend to be very ad hoc in the way we structure our financing. And the last one is quite important as well, is the fact that we are extremely very collaborative in the way that we like to co-invest with others, with like-minded investors. We like to be around the table with people that think the same way, that are not only after financial return, but also after impact, and that actually willing to take kind of a patient capital risk and is happy to move along with the need of the company. Given also the shareholder base that we have, we are working closely with the European DFIs, and we have also a tendency either to invite our shareholders, our big brothers, our big sisters, I used to say, to replace us or to play a role in the investment in the company that we've invested, or to come along us in certain cases. So, for example, in 41% of the case, we've invested alongside them, and we will continue to have that as a trend increasing moving forward. Very quickly, criteria and offering. So I think I've drawn much of them, but obviously we're active in the renewable energy space. Business model, as I told you, we look at everything that allows us to achieve our targets. So mostly solar home system, IPPs, mini-grid, CNI, and others, but we're not necessarily locked into a specific business model. Commercially viable is obviously at the core. It's not only impact. We need to make sure that the project makes sense commercially and financially speaking. It doesn't mean that you need to be EBITDA positive to come our way. We're happy to look at it a bit earlier, even though we need to make sure that the outlook makes sense financially speaking. And then if we come on board, at least we have a clear understanding that we're capable to make you pass and graduate to where I think more investors would feel more comfortable looking at you. Coming around with ESG standards, and surprisingly, like high standards, the usual suspects. And we will be looking around also your track records, and this is where this early stage aspect comes. We don't do seed capital. So what we expect from you is, I know I'm a talker, thank you. That's the last one. So, sorry about that. I'm the one that, yeah. So no seed capital. It means that we want you to have a pilot that has succeeded, that you know the behavior of your own customer, that you're capable to confirm that the revenue ramp up that you're pitching us is going to materialize in a way. Oh, offering, that's the most important one. With that in mind, we're very flexible, basically. We can offer anything from pure straight equity to senior secured debts. We can do a ticket from $500,000 to 10 million. Tenor, depending on the country you operate, we could even go to 8, 9, depending, I think, on the tenor left on our closed-ended fund. And one thing that I want you to keep in mind that we will never go beyond 50% of the financing need. So in a way, you need to come together with partners to have capacity to be able to pursue discussion with us. I'll skip that. Just have a look at some of the recent credentials we have. So quite active in the mini-grid space, obviously, but not only. And that gives you a sense of what we've achieved in the past year, at least, or the past months. And please come my way if you have a good project. I'm just waiting for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Quentin. So you owe 2 minutes to each of the next panelists. Okay, because the time is running fast. Please, Suzanne Hansel from EEP Africa, Head of Portfolio. I'm happy to.
Alexis, at least now I know that you won't just cut off my microphone if I run over. Great, good afternoon. Let me jump right in. Talking to you about EEP Africa. EEP Africa is a multi-donor funded trust fund. It is open-ended, which is very nice. We don't have a cut-off date for our funding. Funded by Austria, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Switzerland, and the Nordic Development Fund. And the Nordic Development Fund is also the fund manager. As SNV and Open Capital Advisors, we provide implementation support to NDF, running the call for proposals, portfolio management, and business development support services. We focus on Southern and Eastern Africa, and we provide risk-tolerant early-stage financing for locally driven, innovative clean energy projects. We work through 3 pillars in EEP Africa. The most interesting one for you here is the one on clean energy financing. We run annual open competitive calls for proposals, and we provide grant funding and repayable grants. The typical grant size is about 200 to 500,000 euros. Anything between 500,000 to 1 million is a repayable grant. We also require co-financing. You can use any of the pitches that have been provided here as a source of co-financing. It's quite flexible. The more mature you are as a company, the more skin in the game we ask for. And, but at a minimum, about 30% cash co-financing. If you're a very early stage company, we will also accept a certain share of in-kind co-financing. The other 2 pillars, business development support services and investment facilitation, that's being provided through Open Capital Advisors. And quite intensive support is available there. And the last pillar, knowledge, learning, and partnerships, engaging in partnerships. EEP Africa has been around for the best part of a decade now, or more than a decade. So we do have some responsibility here in sharing our lessons learned from funding renewable energy companies for that period of time, and also engaging in some peer-to-peer learning among our grantees and alumni. We have a call for proposals coming up in mid-April. Contrary to what we've done in the past, where we had quite a heavy concept note stage, we've moved to an expression of interest stage, just to check on eligibility, to check on the match of the proposals or the ideas that are being pitched against EEP Africa focus areas. We'll move to long listing. We have pitch sessions, and then shortlist, move to full proposal stage, and at full proposal stage we'll be able to provide quite a lot of support to companies that do require some support in getting their proposal in good shape. Get the secondary due diligence done in the process as well, including possible site visits, so that when we take you to the investment committee, we can be quite certain that there are not going to be any surprises as we go into the contracting stage. And in an ideal world, we'll have all grant contracts signed by December for this new cohort, with implementation start date in January 2024. Are you eligible to apply? If you have been a registered legal entity for 6 months at the point that the EOI is being published, then you should be eligible. If your project is based within one of these 15 countries, from Kenya through to Namibia, the Seychelles are covered as well, then that should also make you eligible. Your grant contract would be about 24 months, though that is quite flexible. And we are technology agnostic. So any technology that is based on renewable energy or as an energy efficiency component, e-mobility as well, is eligible as long as you're not using fossil fuels. That's a donor requirement, so we can't fund even LPG or other alternative sources. What types of projects are we funding? Feasibility studies, those are definitely repayable grants. We also fund pilots, replication of successful business models, solutions, and also scale up. If your product is at commercialization stage, then we can take you through to scaling up with our grant. You do need to demonstrate additionality of the EEP Africa grant, though. What can the grant cover? As I've mentioned before, grant funding from EEP Africa is quite flexible. We fund projects, not companies. So even if you're an early stage company and you only have pitched one project, we'll fund that. If you're a more mature company, you have a project that you'd really like to get funded, a pilot, for example, we can fund that as well. As long as you cover one of those 4 themes, one or more, gender and social inclusion, circular economy, which also will include productive uses of energy, climate change and adaptation, quite a broad topic, and then leave no one behind agenda. For example, solutions that target the bottom of the pyramid, but also solutions and approaches, business models that would focus on fragile settings or humanitarian settings as well. What are the next steps? Do please sign up for our newsletter, follow us on social media. We'll keep you up to date on all activities, including when the call for proposal launches. At the moment, we're targeting the 14th of April. In the meantime, as you're waiting for that launch date, get your documents in order. You will need your company registration and your tax ID number at the EOI stage, otherwise you can't proceed. At the proposal stage, you will need at a minimum your account holder confirmation, and you need MOUs in place with any of the partners that you are mentioning in your proposal. Everything else we can work with. So it is really, really flexible and very early stage focused. If your business idea is not ready by the 14th of April, prepare for next year. We'll be launching another call for proposals, probably in Q1, a little bit earlier than this year. If you have any questions, you can come and see me after this, or you can email info@EEP-Africa or CFP@EEP-Africa, or check out our website. Thank you very much.
You're great. Okay, so I don't even have to call for the next panelist. So Guillaume Dupuis, partner at Gain Impact Fund.
Guillaume Dupuis, partner at Gaia Impact. Anybody who has ever set foot in a conference like this has already heard the music that there is not enough equity in the decentralized. So this is where we come in. We are a purely equity-based, equity-focused investment fund for distributed renewable energy startups across Africa. We started 6 years ago with a pilot fund of 10 million euros, and we are now doubling down, as we just announced yesterday. Schneider Electric is going to be a key investor in our new fund. We are targeting not 70 million euros, but now 80 million euros for the second closing. And we are extremely proud to be here today to meet with you, share ideas about how we can work together. So this is the portfolio we've built as part of the first fund. It's a diversified mix of geographies across Africa. You can see that we've really across Western Africa, not yet in Côte d'Ivoire, but hopefully very soon. And we've also invested across Central Africa, Eastern Africa, and we are going to continue to build this geographic diversification. So if you are located anywhere in Africa, please reach out to us. There's a way we can work together. What I want to insist on today is what equity is about and which kind of purposes it serves. We've heard very interesting presentations from esteemed colleagues about grants, debt, flexible instruments. Equity is a very specific instrument. It means that we are partners, we are here for the long term, but it also means that we are going to bring very specific skills to the round and to the company. Skills is the ability to define a price for the company, because partnering with value economically the shares of your company. And this ability to define the price of a company comes the ability to lead of what's going to happen as part of the fundraising strategy. Comes as well the ability to build the future governance that is going to help your company to scale. And most of the recent transactions we've been involved with were leads transactions or co-lead transactions. We also have a recognized strong leverage effects out of the slightly less than 10 million euros we invested. The companies we invested into attracted 57 extra millions in straight equity in the context or after the investments that we've made. So there is this 6 times leverage effect on equity that we are also bringing to the fundraising strategy of your company. In terms of sectors, we are a pure player in the decentralized, distributed renewable energy sector focus, but we try to be as diversified as possible as equity, and especially our mandate as a VC fund is to bring innovation, bring disruption to markets, and to help the new steps of building infrastructure, building decentralized energy assets, building electric mobility networks, building enabling technologies that are going to help thousands of companies to operate at scale on a cost-efficient basis and to serve millions of beneficiaries. This diversification strategy, we are going as part of our new fund to heavily focus on productive uses of energy, electric mobility, and new emerging productive uses that might come our way. As well, we have a strong technology mandate. We are looking at technology companies, not for the sake of just loving tech, but because we think tech is a key leverage to impact, as it brings cost effectiveness, as it brings ease of doing business, and helps local entrepreneurs, more global companies to focus on operations, beneficiaries, and making their customers happy. We also have a small mandate that is going to help us to look at emerging new technologies that will be non-solar. This is what we call new renewable energy. 5% allocation that could be looking at emerging biomass, waste to energy, green hydrogen across Africa. Last but not least, we obviously are and we are still helps companies change in their core markets, but we don't want to stop here. We have set hard-coded targets. 4 million euros beneficiaries are going to be brought to 4 million tons of displaced equivalent CO2 and 20,000 full-time equivalent skilled jobs across Africa. And what we want to say is that we are so serious about those hard-coded targets, this impact, that our team, so myself and my colleagues, we are tying 50% of a viable performance remuneration, the carried interest, 50%, so half of it, to reaching those hard-coded targets that are going to be met by our funds over the course of the next 10 years. You know where to find us if you have an interesting project, if you want to have dynamic partners that are going to help your company scale. Come our way and we'll be extremely happy to have a chat. Thank you.
Now, last but not least, Mathieu Doherty, Senior Advisor at EAC Global Impact Fund, for the last pitch of the day.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to move forward. Okay, great. Good to see everybody. This should be relatively short, so we'll hopefully catch up 2 minutes that we lost earlier. And I'd just like to start by saying thanks to the organizers and thanks to fellow pitchers as well, because I probably shouldn't be pitching for other people's presentations, but I'm going to anyhow. I think these presentations have helped me in my thinking, and that's one of the reasons that I'm actually here in Abidjan is to learn. I'm Matt Doherty. I've been Senior Advisor and Officer for the IEC Global Impact Fund since last October, which is one of the reasons that I'm on a very steep learning curve, including this week, which has been something of that learning curve, but extremely helpful. And what I'm going to pitch is really a request for help in building a business model, in building a financing model that really for the moment remains an idea that we're trying to turn into something that resembles reality, but as we're doing that, we're kind of sailing on the boat as it sails, so to speak. So take you through a couple of things before I start. So the IEC is actually over 100 years old. It's an international standard-setting organization that exists, that a lot of people in the room I know I've spoken with who know and have worked with this organization before. It's been relatively silent, I would say, and one of the reasons that it is actually in the process of creating the Global Impact Fund is because over recent years it's been reflecting, I would say, on both its historical impact, environmental, social, economic, but also where it wants to, the role that it wants to play as an international not-for-profit standard-setting organization going forward, and the Global Impact Fund is really, I would say, a statement of that reflection. So, again, an organization of over 170 countries, 80 something of those are full members, 80, I think it's 83, 84 of those are affiliate countries. But that makes over 170 members and national committees that IEC works with directly, so that's really a global presence as an organization. And the other side is the standard conformity assessment, which it does, which is the certification, the internationally recognized standardized form of certification that IEC does as well, and that's really a large part of its work. And so the Global Impact Fund will be representing both sides of the IEC, both the standardization and conformity assessment, as it looks to starts to build its history from last year when it began as an initiative of the outgoing president of IEC, and looking forward as we begin to create the first project and look how we're going to structure it as a fund going forward. So as you can see here, the first project, which we're coming to the end of the selection process, is in the area of circularity and e-waste. We put out a call for expression of interest, a call for proposals, which we received a very good and quite surprising response to, where we're in the process of selecting the successful applicant of that, which will be an SME based in sub-Saharan Africa that will go on to implement the project. And I guess of all the things that we're trying to focus on, it is really the use and relevance of standardization and conformity assessment to the implementation of this project. It will be done as a grant to begin with. That is, the creation of the fund is done by IEC putting aside 1% of its capital and reserves, which is approximately the equivalent of 1.5 million Swiss francs or euros. And beginning by giving that grant to the SME to showcase the work of international standards and the impact that can have, but also try to outline and I would say demonstrate how that can actually contribute to a project that's scalable and sustainable over the long term. Which brings me to my other current dilemma, and again, this is very early days well, certainly for me as the person that's leading this, but also for colleagues as well, is what role do we play without replicating things that are already going on out there, while trying to play the role that IEC has and the expertise that it has as an organization, and really leveraging that. Should we be giving grants to SMEs to implement these projects? That's a bottom-up approach. Should we be looking at more systemic level, really focusing in the energy sector, trying to really be complementary to create investor-friendly environments? These are the questions that we're currently asking ourselves, and that I would like your help in answering. So that's my pitch to you today. if you'd like to speak, of course, I'm here. I'm happy to discuss before leaving. And it's really that I think the last point that we have here about us being in consultation. The fund will over time be going in the right direction, but I think what we certainly don't want to do is to hurry that process or try to do it at a speed which we're uncomfortable with. I think it's really now that we can get things right in order to have the impact that we want to have over the medium and long term.
Perfect. So I think it was a very nice type of session, very interesting to see all these investors pitching their fund. As you can see, there is a lot of options and solutions to finance your project, mini-grid and energy access project. So as the time is already over, I will just ask to anyone who wants to discuss or to ask a question to any of the panelists to go directly discuss with them. And I will also just conclude and give the microphone and leave the microphone, but just after that, if all the panelists could come to take a picture just after the conclusion award from Dennis.
Thank you very much. Let's have a round of applause for ourselves. I think it's a job well done for everyone today. After this, we still have the opportunity to have Get Invest matchmaking sessions, so kindly take opportunity to do that. And don't forget, we also have the evening reception at 6:30, which is happening at the lobby foyer just outside this time. It's an opportunity for stakeholders who are present with us here today. So again, thank you very much. And we look forward to your engagement with the various speakers, with the different stakeholders present.
One cup for the photo.